Hello and welcome to the webinar. During the next hour, our Get to College counselors will teach you what you need to know about scholarships and financial aid. We're recording today's webinar and we will send a link to anyone who registered online. And for those who are watching the recording, today's date is September 21st, 2017, and the material in the webinar is current for the 2017-18 school year. I'm Malia Dicker and I'm the director of the Jackson Get to College Center. Get to College is a nonprofit program of the Woodward Hines Education Foundation. We have 3 centers around Mississippi, largest in Jackson, and we have other centers in Ocean Springs and South Haven. And we help parents, students, and high schools with college planning and financial aid. Everything we do is free. In our centers, we do personalized college counseling where we can tell you when to apply for admission and scholarships, help fill out your FAFSA, and advise you on essay writing and interviewing. We've also recently launched some virtual services, including this webinar, and we also have some two-way text messaging that we'll tell you about a little bit later. So I'll be moderating today, and I'll ask our presenters to go ahead and introduce themselves. So TJ?
Hi, my name is TJ Walker. I'm the director of the North Mississippi Get to College Center. I'm from Prentice, Mississippi. I'm graduated from Mississippi State with my bachelor's degree and my master's from Belhaven University.
Hey,
Charlie?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Charlie Herrington, and I'm the Assistant Director for Outreach here at the North Mississippi Get to the College Center. I went to Tupelo High School, class of 2006. I graduated from the University of Southern Mississippi with my bachelor's and my master's. I'm really excited to be here today.
Thanks. A few housekeeping details. So we cannot see or hear you, but you can ask us questions through instant message at any time. Our Get to College counselors, Kirsten Knaus and Brian Thomas, will be replying to Q&A and chat today. You can use the Q&A box for any questions you have about the material, and you can use the chat for any technical issues. So now I will turn it over to Charlie to get started.
All right. Thank you, Malia. So we are going to be talking today about scholarships and financial aid. But before we can really begin that conversation, we want to kind of put a frame around it and talk a little bit about the admissions application process as well. So again, bulk of the presentation will be scholarships and financial aid, but we do need to do a small introduction before we can get to that. So with admissions requirements here in the state of Mississippi, things are a little bit different than other states might be. So if your student is looking outside the state of Mississippi, they may have some other requirements, and they probably will have other requirements than the ones that are listed on the screen right now. So these requirements that are listed for you here are predominantly for the red flags that are on the map you see in front of you. So the map has not only the 4-year public institutions, it also has the 4-year private institutions, as well as the 2-year junior and community colleges. But these admissions requirements are for those red flag 4-year public institutions. So as you can see, if your student has a 2.0 or higher GPA, so a 2.0 GPA, they need an 18 on the ACT. So an 18 ACT with a 2.0 GPA. Then if they have a 16 or a 17 on the ACT, they can have a 2.5 GPA. At the top, you see the GPA of just 3.2. So it says college prep curriculum with a 3.2 GPA, and there's no ACT score listed. That's because they don't need a specific ACT score if they have a 3.2 or higher. And that's just standard across the state of Mississippi for all of our 4-year public institutions. So this is a sliding scale. You can see that, you know, the higher your ACT score is, the lower your GPA can be, but it kind of caps right there at that 2.0. That's the minimum line that you need to have for our 4-year public institutions is that 2.0 GPA. So that just gives you an idea of what you're looking at. So if your student's looking at one of our public institutions, that's what they need to have. Now, we want to make sure that your student completes their admissions application. So sometimes students will go online, they'll fill out the application, and they'll say, all right, I'm done. I've got everything. I'm ready to go to college. I've applied. Good to go. But they don't realize that they may have other steps to take care of. And so this is that list that they want to make sure that they get taken care of. And so the application, it's online or it's on paper. So maybe if you're thinking about a junior college or a community college, they may or may not have their application online, or it may not be available online just yet. So if you want to fill out that paper copy, maybe take it over to your local center, that's totally cool. But just know that most colleges do have an online admissions application. It's very easy to find. You'll go to the school's admissions website, and there will be a big red button. It'll say apply here, apply now, maybe just apply, but that's what you're looking for. So you want to click that button, and after you do, you want to make sure that you are applying for undergraduate admissions. I don't want to go too far or too in depth with that, but we have had students who will see there's a box for undergraduate and then a box for graduate, and they'll go to fill out the graduate admissions application because they think, well, I just graduated high school, or by the time I get to college, I will have just graduated high school. But they want to make sure that they are applying as an undergraduate student and a first-time freshman. So we want to make sure we find that. Then you want to check and see if your college has an application fee. One way of knowing that is while you're going through the online application, the very last page is going to ask you to pull out your credit card, put in that information, and send it over to the college. So just know that that is one very clear way to find out if your school has an application fee. If you get through the entire online application and you never see that payment page, then there's a chance that that school does not have an application fee. So not every school will have one. And another thing is that if your student gets free or reduced lunch, they can get an application fee waiver from their high school guidance counselor. So they'll just go straight to the counselor. It's a one sheet of paper that they'll need to fill out, and they can do that for every school that they apply for admissions. So they don't have to pay that application fee. The next thing is to make sure that they have official high school transcripts sent over. So I say official, that means you can't get a copy for yourself, take it home, pull it out, look at it and say, oh, I did not do so hot this semester. Your student needs to make sure that it is sealed and it is sent straight to the college of their choice. So the best way to do that is just to go to the guidance counselor, get her to send it straight to the college. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you have your official standardized test scores on file for that college. When you apply for ACT, you do get those 4 free schools. So if the school already has a copy of your ACT scores, you should be good to go. But you can have those ACT and or SAT scores and send those over to the college. And that's it. So if you're applying to one of our 4-year public institutions, that's all you have to do for your application. But some applications may include other things as well. So if you're applying to a private school or maybe a public school that's a little bit more selective, your college may ask for the additional things. So you might have to fill out an essay, right? An admissions essay. You might have to send them a copy of your resume, may need to go talk to a couple of teachers and your counselor and get some letters of recommendation, and an interview process could be in place as well. So we just wanted to give you guys that heads up. You may already know all of this information, but before we could really get into scholarships and financial aid, we just felt like it was necessary to cover a little bit of the admissions process, and you can start filling out those admissions applications right now. Most of those opened up on August 1st, so you can go ahead and get those taken care of. So we're going to jump straight into money, which is what we're here to talk about today. We all like money and we all want to find it, right? So I'm going to throw things over to TJ. The first thing he's going to tell you about is what's called the net price calculator, and this is a tool and a resource that your family can use. So TJ, I'm throwing it over to you.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Paying for college can be a very stressful situation to deal with, and a lot of times we just have no clue how we're going to pay for it. And so there's a tool out there, like Charlie said, called the net price calculator. Every college in the United States is supposed to have one of these on their website. So parents, if you're trying to figure out how you're going to pay for college or trying to figure out what kind of financial situation you're going to be in with your student going off to college, this is a great tool for you. So the easiest way to find it, if you're having trouble finding it, just go to google.com, type in the name of that college, include net price calculator in that search box, and you should be able to find it. Or if you go directly to that college's website, they should have a search box on their website where you can actually type in the net price calculator. But with this tool, you can actually put in information about your student. Some of them will allow you to include the ACT score, sometimes the GPA. They will ask you some questions about the financial situation at home, similar questions that would be on the FAFSA. And based on the information that you put in, this tool will give you a forecast of what kind of financial situation that you're going to be in with your student going off to college. And so we have an example here coming up. And so we put in information yesterday just to show you what kind of information the net price calculator could give you. So for the school that we put in, we put the student had a 24 ACT, the family made about $30,000 for the year, and the household size was about 5. And so you'll see their direct bill costs right over $8,000. They factor in room and board, a little over $9,000. Books and supplies is also factored in. So you would see that the total direct bill cost is over $19,000, which could be very scary. You also see indirect costs, and these are things that the student could develop based off of their transportation. They may need gas, personal expenses for shopping, whatever the case may be. These are other expenses that could happen, but they're not directly connected to the school. And so you'll see the overall cost of attendance for this college is right at $23,000. Again, could be a very scary number, and this is for 1 year, so keep that in mind. Based on the additional information that was put in the net price calculator, you will see there the Pell Grant was offered, which is $5,920, and this student qualified for a scholarship, again, based off the information of $4,000. So at the very bottom, you see the estimated net price is $13,000. So this student or this family in this situation, based on the information we put in, they still have a bill of about $13,000. Again, a very scary situation if you don't have any additional funds, if you don't have that money tree in the backyard. This could be something scary, but we don't want you to panic, because our goal today is to highlight areas where you can pay for college. We're going to highlight 4 different areas. We're going to talk about private aid. We're going to talk about college aid. We're going to talk about federal aid, which comes from the federal government, and we'll also highlight state aid, which comes from the state of Mississippi. So we'll kick it off with outside aid. And just keep in mind, students and parents, outside aid comes from outside sources. A lot of times these outside sources will award these things for one time. And so it may be $500, it may be $1,000, it could be $1,500, but many times those awards are for 1 year. They could be small amounts, they could be big amounts, they could vary in size. So when you are seeking out these outside aid opportunities, you want to be sure that you read the fine print and be sure you understand what these donors are giving you. You want to think of outside aid as bonus bucks. They're not necessarily guaranteed. You could be a really well-rounded student or have a really well-rounded student, and they could still not qualify. And I'll give you an example. I had a student 2 years ago in my office. She applied for 20 private outside scholarships. She wrote essays. She spent a lot of time updating her resume. She put a lot of time and energy into this process, and she got 0 of those scholarships. And that was very heartbreaking for her, and she almost gave up on the process. So I say that to say this. Bonus bucks, think of outside aid as bonus bucks. If you get them, great. You can add that to your package, but it's not necessarily guaranteed. So where can you find these scholarships? The first place I would encourage you to look is just talk to the counselor. A lot of local agencies and foundations will send their information to the high school counselor. A lot of high school counselors will use the counselor portal on the school's website. So you want to be sure that you check that, check for updates. Sometimes these things come out in the fall. Some of the donors may give the information in the spring. So you want to be sure that you're stalking that counselor's website to see if you can find more information about it. You can go to the internet. Of course, google.com is a magic website, but there are other websites out there like fastweb.com, collegeboard.org, where you can find scholarships. Keep in mind, when you're looking on these websites, you will find a lot of information. You will find a lot of scholarships, and it can be very empowering. You can feel very confident about the process, but just keep in mind that private outside money is not guaranteed. You want to check with local businesses. You want to check with community organizations. Across the state of Mississippi, we have some really great community organizations like the Rotary Club down in Jackson. I think they give a $4,000 scholarship out. There's a Northwest Mississippi Community Foundation here in the South Haven region. Even on the Gulf Coast, Tupelo, the Delta region, there's a lot of local foundations across our state that have really great scholarships. If you were looking for this, you could actually use our website also. So we have a screenshot of our website here. So if you go to gettocollege.org and you click on Plan for College and roll your mouse down to scholarships, it will take you to the page that you see kind of behind the drop-down menu. So you'll see state and local scholarships, and right under that, you'll see some other tabs that you can click on. So if you wanted to check out things across the state, you can click on the Mississippi Scholarships tab. If you want to focus on the Gulf Coast, Metro Jackson, North Mississippi, you can narrow that search down by location. I gave you some national websites a few seconds ago, and so there's a list of some of those national scholarship search sites right there. So again, private scholarships are out there. You'll see a lot of them when you do these searches, but just keep in mind that outside private aid, it's going to be bonus bucks, and if you get them, great, but don't bank on it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, TJ. And like he said, we like to consider those outside private scholarships as bonus bucks. He said that a couple of times, but it's never guaranteed. These are private scholarships from private donors, and they can use this money however they choose. So it's never guaranteed that you're going to get one of those. For instance, say you're applying for a scholarship and the people who are giving that scholarship, their niece or their nephew or grandchild, maybe they're going through the same process right now. So who do you think is going to get the scholarship? Hopefully that niece or nephew or grandchild is well qualified, but there's a chance that they may be the ones to get it. So we just want to make you guys aware of that, of course. So next up, we're talking about college aid. And this is money that can be guaranteed. If you have the proper ACT score and the proper GPA, colleges are going to give you a scholarship. It's just part of the system. It's the way that it works. So we will talk about those academic merit scholarships, other types of college aid. We have leadership scholarships, community service scholarships. We're going to touch on Phi Theta Kappa in just a minute. I'm a pretty big fan of Phi Theta Kappa, being a transfer student myself. So we'll talk about that one. But there are lots of opportunities, and we're going to show you examples from a couple of different college websites. So first things I want to talk about, academic merit scholarships. So I mentioned if you have a certain ACT score, you're going to get a scholarship at a certain school. So here is a list. Again, our frame of reference, Mississippi schools. So we have all of our 4-year public institutions listed for you there, and we have a few of our junior college. Now, we have 15 junior colleges across the state of Mississippi, so I just didn't have the screen space to show everybody. I apologize. Also, private schools are not listed, so check those school websites to see their scholarship breakdown and their matrix and where they start their ACT scholarships. But as you can see, a lot of these schools start around a 20. Some of them start right at a 20, some of them 21, 22. You can see Northwest has a leadership scholarship that's from a 15 to a 19. I can tell you for that, you're definitely going to have to send in a resume and a couple of letters of recommendation. So just have that ready if you're thinking about applying for that one. But one that I also would like to point out down towards the bottom, the University of Mississippi, they require a 25. So students who are looking for that ACT scholarship to push them over the edge at each school, for Ole Miss, it's a little bit higher. So you just want to make sure you understand that and that you know that going in. Another thing is that your GPA needs to be right there around a 3.0. You can see that listed for almost every single school, actually every single school. So 3.0 is kind of the magic GPA. And I say 20 on the ACT is kind of a magic number as well. There's a reason why I'm saying that, and that's because we have a state grant called the HELP grant. We'll talk about it. But the HELP grant, you need a 20 on your ACT to qualify for it, among other things, but that's where we start. Another thing that the 20 can help with, like we have on the screen right here, starting with scholarships, but also remedial classes. So remedial classes, they're not super fun to talk about, but they're a real thing. And so these are classes that students have to take if their ACT score doesn't meet a minimum requirement for the state and for the school that they're attending. And so these remedial classes are full sticker price, and you don't get any college credit for them. So we want to try our best to get students out of those classes, and 20 is kind of that magic number where you can pretty much guarantee if your sub scores are a 20 or above, you're not going to have to take those remedial classes. So next up, Phi Theta Kappa. I mentioned earlier, this is something that I really like and I really enjoy. I wasn't in it. So I was a junior college transfer student. I went to Itawamba Community College, and I had a chance to be in Phi Theta Kappa, but I didn't know about it. I didn't know what it was. I received my letter in the mail. I opened it, I read it, and I was like, what is this? Like, this is some weird honor society that I'm not going to join because I'm too cool for school. And so I literally threw my letter in the trash, and it was one of my many mistakes in life. So I threw my letter away. I went down to the University of Southern Mississippi for my campus visit, and I sat down with admissions, and they said, "Are you a Phi Theta Kappa member?" And I said, "I'm sure not." And they're like, "Well, you should be, because that's a $1,000 scholarship." It's like, great, this is awesome. So glad to be here. So it is a really wonderful honor society. Right now at both Ole Miss and Mississippi State, they're giving out $8,000. It's $4,000 for your junior year, $4,000 for your senior year. Delta State, full cost of tuition that they're handing out for Phi Theta Kappa students. So really good scholarships across our state for those members. And not only that, not only are scholarship dollars great, but these students are successful. They're completing college and they're transferring out, and they're being successful in completing 4-year schools after they get there. So you'll see we have this little chart and this breakdown for you guys. Here is the percentage of Phi Theta Kappa members, 94% completion rate, as opposed to the national average, 38%. And then we have our Mississippi average at 48. So national average, like, PTK students are blowing it out of the water, right? So these are the best of the best students. And if your child has the ability to get into this honor society, I strongly encourage it. There is an initiation fee, so you will have to pay that, but it's really worth it. I promise that it's worth it. So you want to go ahead and when you get that letter, read it. Do not throw it away. Go ahead and get into PTK. They also do some service hours. It's a wonderful program. So next up, I know this is pretty small and maybe a little bit blurry. I took this straight from the Delta State website, but I just wanted to give you some examples across the state. So we have academic scholarships listed here, and we have some leadership scholarships as well. I mentioned those at the top of the college age section. So you can see the breakdown of ACT scores for Delta State. They're starting right there at a 22. That's that academic opportunity scholarship that's listed. And it goes all the way up to the academic excellence, which is a 29 to a 36 on the ACT. So you will definitely get rewarded for those scores if you get there. Over to the right side of the screen, you'll see some leadership roles. And this is if you're in Boys State, Girls State, if you're a star student, if you were an Eagle Scout, or maybe you were in Girl Scout and got the Gold Award. These are types of things that are stackable. So these are small scholarships, maybe $1,000 here and there, but they're going to be able to stack on top of your other admission scholarships. And most schools will do it this way. Maybe not everybody, so I'm not going to make a blanket statement that says all schools stack admission scholarships, because that's not the case. But at Delta State, it is stackable, and a couple of other schools as well. So just make sure you're checking around at the schools you're interested in to see if you can stack some of these academic and leadership scholarships. Next up, here is a list of Mississippi State scholarships, and these are departmental. So I didn't mention departmental scholarships just yet, but if you're thinking of a certain major or a certain academic program, there may be scholarship opportunities for you there. And so this is not the complete list at Mississippi State, but you can see there is an accounting excellence scholarship. There's also pre-medicine. There's an engineering. We all know that Mississippi State has wonderful engineering programs. And then the last one down there is for the College of Forest Resource. So again, not the full list, but just showing you that if you go into a certain program, check the website, check the college or the institution's website, and see what's out there and see if they have an opportunity for your student. And then another example, here's Ole Miss, and these are endowed scholarships. Now, these are similar in nature to another thing. They're called foundation scholarships at some schools. So foundation, endowments, basically, these are people who are giving back to the university and giving back to their community. So again, this is not the entire list. I could not fit all of them onto the screen for Ole Miss because they have a very, very long list of endowment scholarships. But these are awards that maybe if you come from a certain county, or maybe you are a certain ethnicity, or you have a certain GPA, you could potentially get some extra money. I mentioned earlier that not all schools do things the same way. That's just kind of the process. So some schools, your admissions application serves as your foundation or endowment scholarship application as well. So all you need to do is apply for admission, and you'll be put into the hat for all of these. Other schools may have a specific foundation scholarship application. So you just want to, again, check around. I know Northwest Mississippi, I've referenced them. They're close to us. We're here in the South Haven office. So I do know they have a separate application for that, and I believe Southern Mississippi does as well. So just know that that's an opportunity. But getting to know your admissions recruiters, that's valuable because they know about these scholarship opportunities. And at the end of the year, they may sit down with their director and have a committee meeting and say, hey, do we have any extra scholarship money going around? And the director could say, yeah. When I used to recruit at the University of Southern Mississippi, we sat down as a committee and there were a few scholarship dollars that got tossed around. You know, our director would say, okay, I'm looking for a student from Lee County who has a 3.25 GPA. First person raises their hand, they say, yep, I've got a student for you right here. Here's the name, boom, $500 to that student. Next up, I need a student from Amite County who is an African American and has a 3.2 GPA. Boom, got it, $1,000 right there. So I'm not saying that happens, you know, to everyone. Not everybody is going to have that opportunity to get a scholarship, but getting to know your recruiter at least gives you that opportunity. It gives you that chance to have your name at the top of their mind. So when the end of the admissions process comes around. So next up, we're going to jump into federal aid. I'm sure that you've heard about the FAFSA, and if you haven't, now's your chance. But if you are a senior or a parent of a senior student, you know that that date is coming up pretty quick. So I'm going to toss it back to TJ and let him tell you a little bit more about federal aid and the FAFSA.
All right, thanks again, Charlie. So just to recap, we've covered private, outside aid, and just keep in mind it comes from outside sources. And Charlie just covered college aid that comes directly from the colleges. So now we'll transition to federal. So federal aid comes from the student and parent completing the FAFSA. This opens on October 1st, and so October 1st of your student's senior year. So if you're a parent of a student who's a junior or a sophomore or even a freshman, just keep in mind this application opens October 1st of their senior year. The website for this application is FAFSA.gov. Keep in mind there are lots of other websites out there that will offer assistance for completing the FAFSA, but just keep in mind the acronym FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So if you're being charged to complete this application, you may be on the wrong website, or if you're choosing to pay, that's totally up to you. Make a note that we're going to have another webinar on November 7th. We're going to dive deeper into federal aid. We'll talk about the ins and outs of the process, what happens after the FAFSA. But today we're just going to kind of cover a few things about federal aid just to give you some ins and outs of that. By completing the FAFSA, the student is applying for grants, work study, and student loans. And so let's just shed a little light on grants. And so grants, that's money you don't have to pay back. One very common grant that you've probably heard of, or you may hear, or you may see it posted, is Pell Grant. This year, Pell Grant has actually gone up. We just got notice of this last night. And so it's gone up to $6,020. And so the full Pell is that amount. Keep in mind, if a student gets a full Pell, it doesn't guarantee that that's a full ride. Many times when we meet with students at our FAFSA days, or when we're here at the office and they hear the words full Pell, they think I have a full ride. Keep in mind, Pell is only around $6,000, so it doesn't cover every single thing, but depending on the school the student decides to go to will determine how far that Pell Grant can go. Again, the application opens October 1st. To actually start the application, you have to create what's called an FSA ID. And so the student and parent both have to create this. It includes a username and a password, and the student uses that information to log into the FAFSA, but the parent uses that information to sign the FAFSA at the end. There's also a tool on the FAFSA called the IRS Data Retrieval Tool, and this is used to actually link the student's FAFSA to the IRS. So any tax information that's needed to complete the FAFSA, they can actually link it over to the IRS and pull that information across. So you'll see here on the screen, this is the page where you actually start with creating your FSA ID. We highly encourage you to not just go out and do this. There will be FAFSA days across the state of Mississippi. We call them FAFSA completion days. And so Get to College, along with several partners across the state, from community colleges, from other community partners, we'll be having these FAFSA completion days. So I would encourage everyone to go see the high school counselor to see if there's going to be a FAFSA completion day at your school. And if not, give us a call and we can actually assist you remotely. And so that's how you get the process started. You create your FSA ID, you log in as a student, and then you get the FAFSA rolling. And again, by logging into your FAFSA, you're applying for grants, you're applying for work study. And a little bit more about work study. Work study is basically where a student is awarded an amount of money and they have to get a job on campus. It could also be off campus, and they work about 20 hours a week, making minimum wage. And so just because a student is awarded that work study money doesn't guarantee it just falls in their pocket. They have to go get a job and they have to work to earn that money. And also student loans. There are a lot of myths about student loans out there, that they're a bad thing. There's war stories about it. And I always encourage students and parents to just know this. If you have to take out student loans, they don't necessarily have to be, such a bad thing, but it's an investment. And if you choose to invest in your child's future, it could be a great thing. So just keep that in mind. When you're completing the FAFSA at the end, you're going to get a confirmation page. And that confirmation page is going to show you an EFC at the bottom. It's going to give you an estimate of Pell. It's going to show you a loan amount. It's also going to include a sentence that says start your state application. But on that confirmation page, that EFC is very important. And colleges use that EFC to determine the student's financial needs. So many times we talk to families and we meet with families who kind of opt out of completing the FAFSA because they assume that we make too much money, we won't qualify for anything. Well, that depends. It depends on the college that the student is applying to. So at some colleges, if it costs $60,000 a year and that EFC is a certain number, depending on what that cost of attendance is at certain colleges, they actually may qualify for some institutional aid that would not be given unless that student completes the FAFSA. So we're going to encourage you, regardless of your financial situation, whether you make a little or a lot, we're going to encourage you to complete that FAFSA. And if you need assistance with it, definitely give us a call. So on the screen here, you'll see another snapshot of our website. So again, that's gettocollege.org. We have a new tool on our website called the Expected Family Contribution EFC Calculator. And so if you wanted to have an idea of what that EFC would be for your family, you can actually go to our website and do that today if you'd like to do that. One final thing about FAFSA, again, the confirmation page comes at the end, and it kind of segues into our Mississippi application. So there's a state of Mississippi application for Mississippi funds. And so at the end, if you click Start Your State Application, it actually opens up that Mississippi financial aid application so you can actually get started on the Mississippi app. And so Charlie's going to come back in and give you some insights on Mississippi aid.
Yeah. Thanks, TJ. So we have 3 main grants through the state of Mississippi. And like TJ said, right there at the very end of your FAFSA, there will be a link and it will say start your state aid application. It's wonderful. There's only a few states that are actually taking advantage of that, and we're one of them. Yay, Mississippi. So these grants stay in state lines, okay? So we have the state of Mississippi. These cannot cross state lines. You can't go to Alabama. You can't go to Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana. You have to stay in the state of Mississippi. But Charlie, we live really close to the University of Memphis, and they give me in-state tuition. So I'm just going to use my MTAG there. Can't do it, sorry. So again, have to be used at a Mississippi school, college or university. So these 3 grants are awesome. There are other loan forgiveness programs you may have heard about. For instance, William Winters, if you're thinking about being a teacher or an educator, that is a program that starts your junior year of college. You can apply for that, and that's a loan forgiveness program. But what we're talking about right now are these 3 grants through the state of Mississippi. Again, like our federal aid webinar, we will also have a state aid webinar, which is going to be December 12th. So if you are interested in that to get a little bit more information and go a little bit deeper into state aid, please tune in for that as well. But these 3 grants briefly, so the first one is MTAG, and all you need is a 15 on the ACT and a 2.5 or higher core GPA. That's it. There's no income requirement. There's no income component. You just have to have those requirements. MESG is the same way. It's a 29 on the ACT and a 3.5 GPA. So again, 29 is a little bit higher. I understand that, but you definitely get rewarded for it. Lastly is the HELP grant. And the HELP grant has a few special requirements. I mentioned the 20 a little bit earlier. That's that magic number. So 20 on the ACT. 2.5 or higher GPA. They need to take the core curriculum, so the CPC, which is the college prep curriculum, +1. Now, what that +1 means, just so you are aware, an advanced selective. You have to take an additional advanced selective. So for graduation and for Mississippi public schools, students have to have at least 2 advanced selectives. Now for the help grant, they have to add an additional one to that. So examples of advanced selectives, advanced world geography is one. You can use a higher math other than, algebra 2. It has to be higher than algebra 2. If they're using dual enrollment credit, so if they've taken college algebra or English composition, that's going to count as well. And then foreign languages. So I know a lot of students are trying to get around those foreign languages these days since it's not a requirement anymore for our Mississippi schools. They're saying, I don't want to take it, but it's good to have, and at least 1 year can give you some of those advanced selective credits. So do remember that that's possible as well. The last thing for the help grant is that it does have an income component. This could change from year to year, so just check the website so you can see exactly where it's at for this upcoming school year, but there is a requirement. Your family income has to be below a certain threshold. Usually, if your student is getting free or reduced lunch, or they qualify for free or reduced lunch, they are probably going to be in help grant range. So it's a really awesome grant. So let's talk about how much you're going to get for each of these. MTAG, so with that 15 and that 2.5, it's going to get you $500 for your freshman year of college, $500 for your sophomore year of college, and then it doubles. So you'll get $1,000 for your junior year and $1,000 for your senior year as well. Pretty cool, right? So that's $3,000 split over those 4 years. You do not have to fill out your FAFSA for this, but I strongly recommend it. Not only because it's really easy to get to the Mississippi application from the FAFSA, but the FAFSA also serves as a form of residency verification. So you'll need 2 of those. The FAFSA can help be one of them. So again, MTAG, $500 freshman, sophomore, $1,000 junior, senior. MESG, the Mississippi Eminent Scholars Grant, you're going to get $2,500 for each of your 4 years of school. So it's $10,000 split over 4 years, and that's for that 29 and that 3.5 GPA. Really awesome. And then lastly, the help grant. The help grant is really, really cool. I love the help grant. Of course, you do have to meet that income requirement, but if you can meet all 4 of those requirements that are listed, you get full tuition and required fees at any public school in the state of Mississippi. Now, when I say any, I mean any public school, 2-year or 4-year. It gets kind of tricky when you think about private schools. So if you're looking at a private school, they will take the cost of the nearest public school's tuition and subtract that from your tuition fees at that private school. An example, if you're thinking of Mississippi College, for instance, that's a private school in Jackson. So if you're thinking of Mississippi College, they may give you the closest public, which might be Jackson State. So they may give you the rate of Jackson State. So that's a little bit about the help grant. Again, we're going to dive deeper on December 12th when we have our state aid webinar. So what we want to do now, we've covered everything that we'd like to cover today, and we just want to give you a short recap. So hopefully this will, be a little bit of a refresher. I know we haven't been here for too long, but we want to, hit the highlights for you. So again, our admissions requirements for public universities in Mississippi: 3.2 overall GPA. You just got to take the ACT and send in those scores. 2.0 GPA with an 18, so 18 or higher, 2.0, and then 2.5 GPA with a 16 or a 17 on the ACT. Okay. Next up, for seniors in high school, the FAFSA game can be completed on or after what date? TJ, what you got?
Pop quiz. So the answer is going to be October 1st. So we listed some other dates here, and you see January the 1st. That used to be the open date for it, but it changed to October 1st.
All right, next up, for the class of 2018, their parents will provide information from which tax return on the FAFSA. So this is for those graduating seniors this year. Does anyone know exactly what year taxes you're going to use? TJ, why don't you tell them?
Right, it's going to be 2016. So you're going to use your prior year taxes, which is 2 year prior. So basically, as long as your student is in college, as we know it, it's going to continue to be prior year. So for the 2019 year, you use 2017, and so on. Great.
All right, and this grant pays full tuition at any school in Mississippi for 4 years. We know it's not the Pell Grant, right? That's federal. So out of the remaining 3, TJ, which one?
All right, so if you paid attention to Charlie's bit on Mississippi Aid, you know that's the HELP grant, pays full tuition and fees to any school in the state of Mississippi for 4 years. So it's a great opportunity for our students here.
And we talked a lot about what we consider our magic number, which is not the end-all be-all number by any means, but the ACT score required to be eligible for the HELP grant.
Right, so that's going to be a 20 ACT. So 20 is very powerful for our students in many ways. And so if you've listened to everything we talked about today, Charlie showed you earlier that a lot of the colleges in Mississippi start their scholarships around a 20, so that's a benefit. So even if your family won't qualify for help because of the income, if they get at least a 20 ACT, there are other benefits that come from that ACT score.
Awesome. And so continuing that conversation about the HELP grant, what percentage of HELP grant recipients graduated from college in 6 years? So this is from a cohort that started in 2009.
So it's 82%. So those students are succeeding. And so one of the reasons, or two of the reasons students we see that kind of drop out of college is because they run out of academic energy and they run out of money. And so if students qualify for this HELP grant and they receive it, they're getting money to pay for college. And also if they have that ACT score, they're probably not going to be in those remedial classes where they have to run out of energy. So if they're taking normal classes, they're on time, they have enough money to pay for it, we're seeing them graduate and succeed.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks, TJ. So that's it for us today. Thank you so much for attending our webinar. Now, if you have any remaining questions, concerns, maybe some clarifications, we're going to send it back over to our moderator, Malia, and she's going to kind of wrap things up, tell you guys a couple other things. But again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you attending the webinar today.
Thanks, Charlie. So that concludes today's webinar. We're going to email you the recording and post it on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/getttocollege. So also please take our feedback survey that'll come along with the recording so we can keep improving these webinars. As TJ and Charlie mentioned, our next webinar is November 7th, all about the FAFSA, followed by state aid on December 12th. And registration will open 2 weeks before each webinar on our website, getttocollege.org. You can also find more information on our website and sign up for our two-way text messaging at bit.ly, so that's bit.ly/G2C text. And this will send you occasional texts with college planning tips and deadline reminders, and you can text us back with questions at any time. So if you have any follow-up questions, you can reach us at info@getttocollege.org. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.